Well, hello. I'm here with Doug to talk about Lenacapavir, and other things. And it is Friday, December 13, 2024. And I'm going to start with that one with the name I can't say. They've apparently developed an anti-age drug that really works. It is called Lenacapavir, and it's 96% effective at preventing HIV infections. Now, there has been something else acting as a PrEP pill to prevent you from getting HIV for a while, but you have to take the pill like every week, and people forget. This one is a twice yearly injection. So people say they expect it to be very successful at preventing HIV and may possibly be the end of the HIV epidemic. So it sounds like a major step forward. I thought that was the
That's
most important thing.
interesting. So it's an anti-aging drug as well?
No, an anti-infection drug.
Oh,
So it's like
anti-infection.
a vaccine, except you have to take it every 6 months. So I guess it doesn't create that kind of vaccine type immunity. But anyway, it is a way to prevent yourself from getting HIV. And so if they can get all the people that are at risk to do this, then that would end the epidemic.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, but of course, I might as well go to the one for about RFK, of course. RFK Jr. is apparently going to be in charge of all the medical government in America, and he is absolutely against everything like this. His lawyer, in fact, Aaron Siri, who has been his friend, and he said he loves this guy and worked with him in a group and everything, he specializes in vaccine lawsuits. He is now trying to get the FDA to revoke approval of the polio vaccine and 13 other vaccines. And so it's all true. I mean, we're going to have as far as I can tell, the majority of the Republican Party is now anti-vax. Trump found that out when he tried to brag about the vaccine at a rally, and they all booed him. So, and I think 500,000 of them died that didn't have to because they refused to take the COVID vaccine. And apparently, they would like to spread this joy to all of us, so we can all die from preventable diseases. And it looks like it's really going to happen. So I've read some political commentary where they say the Democrats should try not to save the Republicans in the House this time, just let them burn everything down so we can get rid of them. And I think, in a sense, it hardly matters because they have so many terrible policies coming that won't have to go through the House like this. That
Well, Sam, you know what that's going to do, right? When RFK, with the real motive behind this
oh,
is
I
to
don't think he
solve the
has any
housing
motive.
shortage.
I think he's no. I think he's just got brain damage. It's crazy, like uh, like a lot of them. I think he's basically like a Christian Scientist, religious zealot that feels like you just shouldn't use any medicine because God wants you to die, or you're only sick because you think bad thoughts or something like that. I think that's where it comes from. He
You, you,
believes,
you don't you don't think he's going to solve the housing shortage?
oh well, by as an accidental byproduct, he might. In my hometown, back in Pennsylvania, you could get a house for free because there were no jobs and people would just give up and walk away and leave, and the houses would just sit there empty, abandoned.
Yeah,
But bad enough economic situation creates housing, if you want to look at it that way.
yeah. So I remember decades ago, you could buy a three-bedroom, two-bath house in Houston, Texas, new construction for 25,000 because you're right. The economics weren't there. People were moving out,
Yeah.
and houses that they had just completed were sitting vacant.
Yeah. Well, these are
Yeah.
old falling down houses, but still, yeah.
Yeah.
It's surprising that you bother building houses in an economy so bad you can't sell them. I wouldn't think that would happen to them.
Well, the economy, it was a boom at the time.
Right,
And
right.
so these would probably at the time, fair market value would have been maybe 175, 200,000, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, Trump promised many, many times he was going to bring down prices, and now he's admitting he probably can't. And from what I understand, economists say if prices start falling, that's really bad. You really don't want that because what you're describing,
Yeah,
that's what causes it. When the economy is collapsing and when prices go down. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So interesting. So, speaking, we're on spending money here.
Yeah.
Did you see that Meta is planning on spending $10 billion? That's 10 billion with a B.
Oh boy, what is it this time? Last time it was the metaverse.
Yeah, so it might be related to the metaverse, but they're planning to install a worldwide transoceanic cable.
Oh, well, I mean, there's a lot of that already. Of course, the more of it might be nice. It's very strange thing for Meta to do, though. Are they going to rent it out to telephone companies or something?
We don't know, but why couldn't they have their own private internet?
I guess they could if they wanted
Yeah,
to. I mean, if they have enough traffic, it might even be cheaper than leasing it from phone companies. I guess it might make sense.
yeah, yeah.
It doesn't
They,
sound as stupid as the metaverse.
no, that's true. That's
This
true.
is this is sort of like any company, once you're big enough, you start cutting out your suppliers and just building your own. Like Google builds their own servers and stuff. At some point, it becomes
Yeah,
economic if you're a large enough customer internally to just make your own
yeah.
manufacturing.
Well, yeah, I forgot where the cable's starting, but it goes someplace, maybe Florida or East Coast, down to where would it go? South Africa, and it wraps around to India, comes back,
Well,
China, Japan.
Meta has short videos to compete with TikTok, right? I mean, I think they
Yeah,
actually have
yeah,
a very large amount of traffic. They probably do have enough traffic to justify their own internet backbone.
yeah. So, Meta Facebook short videos are called Reels.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I've heard they're popular. So
yeah. Well, yeah. And since we're on the topic here, the TikTok ban, Supreme Court last week upheld TikTok ban. Its law
yeah,
goes into effect the day before Trump takes office.
yeah, and so I mean, either TikTok will be banned, or more likely, I guess it'll be sold to an American company.
Yeah, and so far it looks like the sale, there have been some suitors and TikTok has declined.
Yeah, well, man, but I don't know which way it's going to go, but it's a big deal. Boy, TikTok is huge.
Yeah,
I can't
it's
use it
yeah.
because I'm a government contractor, but and I couldn't get any sense out of it anyway. I tried using it, and it just seemed to be nothing but like TV commercials, as far as I could tell.
Sam, that's the problem. You're too old.
I know, well, yeah, people said that it has this brilliant algorithm. It will learn what you like. I didn't observe that, but I think I wasn't willing to give it like 100 hours to train on me. I tried it for a while, and I said, "Well, there's no COBOL in here, and this is all garbage," and I'm giving up.
Yeah, I gotcha. I gotcha.
Like
All right,
Taylor
wait.
Swift, I'm just not the target demographic. Anyway,
Neither am I. And it is interesting. There are a lot of people making a lot of money off of that.
apparently, yeah.
And what are the short or the private videos on YouTube called?
I
I
don't
mean
know.
on Meta.
I don't know.
The personals, it's not personals,
I know
but
there's OnlyFans.
yeah, OnlyFans. That's
Is
the
that
one I'm
part of
thinking.
Meta? I thought that was a separate company, but I don't really know. It's
Yeah,
mainly
well,
porn, I understand.
yeah, it is porn,
Yeah.
and some people have released how much they're making.
So a few of them are
It,
making a lot of money, apparently.
yeah, what's a lot?
Oh,
Do you
I
know?
well, I don't know. I heard reports that someone was making $1 million a month, and then she came out and said that's not that much, but apparently a good living.
Yeah, well, somebody posted that they're making 40 million a year.
I would imagine, just like any other form of entertainment, there are a few superstars that make
Correct.
that
Yeah.
much, and a whole lot of people making a lot less. But apparently, a lot of people are actually making good living out of it.
Right, right. All
Well,
right, what do you got?
yeah, but
Oh, you're
as sex work goes, it's one of the safer ways to do it. So, from a medical point of view, I approve. Um, it's a
social
lot.
distancing.
Well, also physical distancing is a lot safer than walking the street turning tricks, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
And it scales.
yeah, yeah. It, it, it's uh, it's probably in many ways healthier in many ways than the alternative. So,
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. All right, what's your next story here?
well, the U.S. Let's see, I want to have that here, maybe not. All right. So the Texas state rep has now applied for a Texas state Bitcoin reserve. The Trump administration wants to make a federal Bitcoin reserve, and they're also going to do one in Texas. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this. There's a push for Microsoft to invest in Bitcoin that has currently been denied by a vote or something. But Bitcoin's going up again. So everybody's saying, we could invest in Bitcoin and we'd make money. Why aren't we doing that? And it's getting hard to have a good answer while it's going up. Of course, it'll crash again after a while, but then apparently we'll just go up again. The long-term increase of Bitcoin is pretty impressive. And but if you're worried about the volatility, there's a report here from a Saudi Arabian um, entrepreneur who has patented the first non-depreciating crypto asset that is guaranteed to only go up. And yet somehow this article on Crypto Potato introducing it fails to have clear explanation of exactly how that would work. He claims to be protecting it with like complicated cryptography and AI, so it will somehow only go up and not down. And boy,
I
that would be
see.
swell. That's like
Yeah.
that's like a perpetual motion machine, you know. That would be nice, but I don't think you can do that. You'd have to explain that a lot more carefully to convince me. Any kind of financial instrument that goes only up and not down, that would appear to be impossible.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think anything in the history of the world.
I know. I mean, you could do what Bitcoin does. You could make something where there's a limited asset, so there will be scarcity. And you could argue it should go up for that reason, but that doesn't mean it will go up. Like we had NFTs. They went up and then they came down. I mean, it
Yeah.
could just go out of
Yeah.
fashion and then it would go down. And I don't think your AI can prevent that.
Yeah. Well, you know the baseball card story. Remember how baseball cards were became really popular?
And I guess they still are. I hear about them now and then.
Well, it turns out the story is there was one guy behind it that pumped them, and he was an auction house. And I believe he's sitting in jail right now, prison, but it was a whole pump and dump
Uh,
where he's responsible for pumping up the value of these baseball cards. And then one afternoon, one day, it essentially they tanked and they're completely worthless
well,
or thereabouts.
now that you mention it, I listened to Keith Olbermann, and he talks about how, a couple decades ago, baseball was just huge. It was the center of American culture. Everybody loved it, and he said it's declined. And, it used to be just part of like America, like apple pie and motherhood, baseball was the thing. And now it's not, it has kind of fallen out of fashion, is less popular. And so I guess that's the thing. Like anything, it comes and goes.
Yeah, that's separate from baseball cards. You know why baseball has become unpopular?
I don't know.
It's boring.
Well, it always has been boring. Yeah. I,
Yeah, but,
I,
but in the TikTok age, it's really boring.
I guess. Yeah. Well,
And
let's,
I think in tennis, the same thing. They had to put limits in tennis by the time you had to serve in, I think, 20 seconds. And in baseball, it's the same thing. You have to throw out a pitch every 30 seconds. I might be wrong on that, but
yeah.
they implemented a time. Otherwise, it could be a minute or two between pitches.
Yeah, I've never really understood the spectator sports of any kind, but
Well, if you want a real spectator sport, you need cricket.
yeah, I thought it was a lot like baseball, but I don't know anything really.
It is, but the games last for days and nope, and they only have one base that you run forward and backward, and I have no idea how you play it.
I know they're incredibly cricket and rugby is big in Britain to where they actually have sort of wars between towns of people
Yes.
beating each other up and fighting over it. The
Yeah.
the fans
And
are
and
just insanely emotionally invested in this.
and cricket is incredibly popular in India.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Let's move on.
yeah,
Otherwise, we'll keep talking
yeah,
here.
yeah. Well, so I got there's these things called mirror microbes, or there could be. Um, And there's been a call, as a Guardian article about this, that calls this an unprecedented risk to life on Earth. So you can make molecules that are the mirror image of normal molecules. I know, for
The-
example, one of the sweeteners, I think aspartame, that's what it is. It's left-handed sugar or something. And so they make the molecules, but now people are talking about making mirror bacteria. And they say if they did that, it would bypass all your immune systems and become a killer plague and such. So world-leading scientists have called for a halt on research to create mirror-life microbes. There had been people that wanted to do this. There was some argument. They manufactured large functional mirror molecules to study them more closely. And there are potential applications. They could be turned into therapies for chronic and hard to treat diseases, while mirror microbes could make bioproduction facilities which use bugs to turn out chemicals more resistant to contamination. So that's why people want to do it. But they say if it escaped your lab, it would then be an unstoppable plague. So we'll see what comes of this.
hmm. So they're called enantiomers.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the other term is chirality,
Right.
based on Cairo, Egypt. And so you can have a left-handed molecule and a right-handed molecule.
Right.
And we evolved, this is actually, I think, very good indication for evolution, that our DNA, RNA, and proteins have a handedness to them.
Right.
And I was taught if somebody goes in and gets in the transporter and somehow they're the mirror image of each other, that they would starve to death because all the food molecules are
Right.
the incorrect handedness and you wouldn't be able to get any nutrients.
Right.
Now, the question that I have is if they're able to do this, which seems kind of far-fetched because this would be creating life, would it not?
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be synthetic life.
Yeah, and we've already kind of dabbled in synthetic life.
The ones I heard were really, really primitive, like basically just a little oil drop with a little
Yeah.
chemistry going on it. So this sounds like nothing that you could do right away. But the thing that occurred to me, like what you're saying, is if you had a left-handed microbe, it wouldn't be able to live in a right-handed organism it tried to infect, would it? They wouldn't be able to eat your food or infect
Well,
yourself.
again, in theory, no,
Yeah.
because it wouldn't be able, but there's some sugars and other proteins that do a flip. So in nature, they're going from one-handedness to another handedness, is what I recall.
Yeah. And like I say, I think that's what aspartame is. Aspartame is the wrong-handedness for sugar somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think what they do is there's a bond that attaches the sweetness portion of the molecule
Right.
that our bodies can't cleave. So we can't get the sugar molecule. We can taste it,
Right.
but we can't digest it.
Yep.
You know, there's another drug that was given back in the 50s to women that were pregnant, thalidomide. Have you ever
Yeah.
heard of it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one that caused the birth defects.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting about that is it was only one-handedness that caused the birth defects.
Oh.
And if you ever want to thank, what was Fauci's job?
National
Uh,
Institute of Health,
no,
Allergy and Infectious Diseases head.
no, whoever was like in charge of regulating drugs
Yeah.
in the United States back in the 50s, whoever that was, refused to allow thalidomide to come into the United States. So they were skeptic of the research that was being presented, and they had reason to do so. So it was never widespread given in the US, it was in Europe.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, that drug is being used today because the flip version that doesn't cause um, birth defects turns out to be incredibly powerful, and it cures another disease that I can't remember that's fairly rare. And the bottles are marked that every tablet they essentially has a serial number on it because if this gets out in the public, it can cause birth defects
Oh,
easily.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I need to look it up. It's something like leprosy. That's not it, but some very rare drug that we never had a cure for. They just recently found it. Thalidomide would cure that.
Okay.
Anyway, interesting story. What else you got? That we'll
Well,
have to keep an eye on that one.
police. I've always heard all my life police complain about the paperwork, and apparently it is incredibly burdensome. You have to write these long reports, and you have to describe everything that happened in detail so it can be uh, brought up in court later, every little thing you did. And cops hate doing that. So they're now using AI to draft the reports, generative AI. And the ACLU is very concerned because, as you can imagine, it doesn't bother to get it right. The AI just sort of makes it look like a valid police report, but now the facts have not actually been recorded accurately. And now when you go to court later, the evidence is not right. So, but the cops love it. It saves them all that time doing paperwork. So that's a cheerful thought to think about. And you remember, I think we talked about this before. North Korea is sending workers to high American tech companies by pretending to be from Germany or somewhere, and They found out they caught them. They caught the intermediaries in other countries and arrested them, and they tracked down the people doing it in North Korea. And each one of them was given a quota of $10,000 a month they were supposed to earn, but they didn't achieve that. But they did manage to get $88 million over 6 years with a bunch of these people working as contractors in American companies, and they would earn their pay, and then they would also steal your secrets and grant extortion not to publish them, and then sell the secrets and stuff. So that's how they were making the money. And it's probably still going on. They just managed to bust one of the rings doing this.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
an obvious thing in the days of remote work. You start hiring people and you don't actually know who they are or where they are.
Yeah. 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 And yeah. And there's no way really to verify.
Right. And so I've talked about many times about the Windows 11 update to Windows 10. Microsoft said for years, we will not let you put Windows 11 on unsupported hardware. Then about a week ago, they reversed course and said, okay, you can put it on, but you have to click OK to this disclaimer. Well, if you take a look at the disclaimer, it says, we don't guarantee it will run. It might damage your hardware, and you're not going to get any updates. That last one being a little more concerning. So apparently, if you do update from Windows 10 to Windows 11 on old hardware, Microsoft says you're not going to get Windows 11 updates. Now, I understand how they might want to say we can't guarantee the updates will work because they're on unsupported hardware, but actually not giving the update seems a little harsh, and we'll see what happens. But the fact is, just like Vista, nobody wants Windows 11. It's trash. Everybody would rather just stay on Windows 10. There's no good reason to make you move, and everybody is correctly saying, why should I move? Why should I buy a new computer just to get this new OS that's not any better? Microsoft keeps doing this over and over. It's the Microsofts I know and love, shooting themselves in the foot with every move.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're probably all going to get this question from a bunch of people. How bad is it for me to keep running Windows 10 or to use my unsupported Windows 11? And in fact, remember predicting there'd be a lethal virus at the end of support for XP and there wasn't? It seems like that doesn't really happen like they say it's going to happen. Maybe it's not that dangerous to keep using the old version.
Yeah.
Seems like a bad idea, but anyway, I think that's all I've
Well,
got.
we'll see. For people working at home, though, I mean, for mere mortals, other than banking, and we're already over the PI stuff, I think that, people have our data. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's it's
Here,
hard to know.
yeah. So here, Sam, I was talking to a friend of mine, and they have different personas when they go online, and they're doing research. And I thought this was kind of clever. But what names do you use
I
by
always
any
use the same
chance?
name, like Sam. I'm really
Uh,
boring.
yeah, okay. So this researcher is using names like Emily Harris. Does that name ring a bell with
Some
you?
radio personality from years ago. I only vaguely remember.
No, not quite. And there are lots of pictures of her. Um, let's see. How about who else would be in there? Donald DeFreeze?
Sounds like a Marvel villain.
No, no, no. Let me see. Let's see who else was in there. How about Jeffrey Dahmer?
That one I've heard of. Some famous killer.
Yeah. So she uses members of the SLA and the Weathermen Underground.
Well, if you read the Jack Reacher stories, he always uses the name of like baseball stars or presidents when he checks into hotels, and which would not
So,
be possible because they make you have ID these days. But anyway,
yeah, yeah, that's more difficult. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But it's just kind of interesting because all these pictures are out there of all these people,
yeah.
and those names that were once household names that everybody knew have kind of faded away. Younger generation doesn't know. I guess another one would be Peterson. Remember Peterson
Scott
from
Peterson.
this? Yeah, Scott
I
Peterson.
saw his name on the National Enquirer at checkout stands. It seemed like for 10 years there were court battles going on over whether he killed his daughter or something.
His wife,
Well,
pregnant wife.
yeah, okay. Just
And I,
whatever
I
the
don't
case
know.
was, it seemed to drag on for years.
It did, and like the Menendez brothers, he was convicted.
I've heard that
And,
name too, but I don't really know what they did. I guess they killed somebody.
or they killed their parents. That was the big trial, kind of an O.J. Simpson trial back around
Yeah.
that time. They were both convicted, and there's talk about, I think maybe you brought it up, them getting pardoned.
No, I don't think it was me. I do see articles
No?
about it, but I never flag them because I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. So their parents were very wealthy, Beverly Hills, Hollywood types. I mean, not, they
Mhm.
were from real estate is how they made their money. And the two sons murdered him and claimed, sexual abuse and things like that, abuse.
Yeah.
And the attorney that they hired was very good and was doing really well till they ran out of money, is what I recall. And then they were convicted.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well,
that's another story like OJ. Well, I guess OJ bought his way out initially, but got caught later.
I suppose it's just my Puritan upbringing, but I always see these as a cautionary tale saying, you're better off not being rich. As far as I can tell, being rich just opens a can of worms. Who needs it?
Yeah, yeah. I will say, Sam, there is somebody, I just heard this story, that's won the lottery. And
Yeah.
winning the lottery, how many times would somebody win like a big lottery?
Oh, I've heard it's a mathematician that won like 4 times.
Yeah, so this person apparently won 14 times.
Wow.
How? I don't know.
Well, they clearly found some kind of flaw in the system.
I don't know. I've heard stories where people have won the state lottery back east.
Yeah.
In the same week, one state's lottery, the master jackpot or the big jackpot in another state, the same jackpot, or for that state, the jackpot.
Well, it would be
But they,
easy to rig
but
it,
but but the question is, why do they keep playing?
Well, the insiders could rig it, so that would be the most obvious explanation. Somebody
No,
inside the system.
yeah, these are supposedly legitimate wins.
Yeah, but I mean, it would be so easy to money launder that. I could be in the system, rig the computer to choose a different number, and then, through a couple of cutouts, arrange for some guy not connected to me to get the money and then secretly kick back half of it. It would seem pretty easy to do.
So it's happened before. Somebody took the
Yeah.
ping pong balls and put white paint in them,
Right.
and they slowed down the TV, and they saw that certain, seven balls were higher than the others, but the
Yeah.
balls were destroyed afterward. But these people that are rigging it get caught. But you're right. But there are too many of these, too many individuals that have won multiple times.
The most obvious clue is corruption, although there are cases
Yeah,
where there's actually a mathematical flaw, and a statistician was able to find a system.
yeah,
These supposedly random processes are not
yeah,
perfect.
yeah. All right, so that's free.
Yeah.
We join up on Tuesday.
Yeah, let's do it again
Yep,
on Tuesday.
let's do it again on Tuesday.
I'll see you then.
All right, sounds good.